Beyond the Waves is a Hail Hail Media production. It may contain sweary words and adult situations may be discussed. If you're in the company of underage Tims, turn off the show now and listen back later. If you'd like to get in touch with the show, email us at beyondthewaves67@gmail.com. You can also reach us on Twitter at BTW Celtic Show, or check us out on Facebook and join our group at Beyond the Waves. Hail, hail, and keep the faith.
Captain! Land ahoy!
Listen, do you want to chat about Celtic after the game and avoid the usual Scottish hacks? Then tune into the Beyond the Waves Celtic show on the Hail Hail Media channel. I'm telling you, Graham, the Rev, the coach, they're there after every game to take your calls and talk you down from the ledge if need be. The guys are live after every single match and you can catch them on www.Spreaker.com and then just search for Hail Hail Media. So if you'd like some Celtic discussion that'll make you feel a bit Yankee Doodle Dandy, tune into Beyond the Waves radio show. Yank it to the
The others fear when they hear us cheer as we sing the Celtic song.
You think you're smart, but they know how to break your heart. They'll chew you up and spit you out, make you start again.
Welcome to the Beyond the Waves Celtic Football Show. My name is Graham Wilson. I think there was a game that played today. Not quite sure what exactly that was, but we're not going to spend too much time on it for obvious reasons. Make of it what you will, but there is a context here. I don't think it's endemic. I don't think it's anything to call in the panic stations or make any general conclusions. Off day at work, from start to finish, really. We'll break all that down. And there's a silver lining. And we will discuss that as well. And lift our spirits as much as we can. Although I have to say the result did take the wind out of my sails, but unfortunately I think that Mother Nature is going to re-inject wind into our sails. We have a hurricane that's basically has all of us in its crosshairs, and this may be the last show for a little while, depending. Hopefully I can get a generator. If there's anybody in the Mid-Atlantic area that can get me a generator, please get in touch with us at BTW Celtic Show, because I am desperate. And, the Rev, he's got his Iron Brew, and all is well. The coach, he's got some 6x6s, hopefully pressure treated. So, maybe that'll keep the beast dry and, safe. But, before we do anything else, let's meet our panel. As always, from Perth Amboy, it is the Rev. Hail, Rev.
Hello.
Rev, give us a sense for what the scene is there pre-hurricane. Are you starting to feel the wind pick up? Is there a general sense of panic? Is there urgency, as has been instilled from our fantastic American media?
Not so much, not yet anyway. We went out yesterday just to pick up, some soup and tuna fish and, things like that, some non-perishables, a couple jugs of water. Everything was pretty well stocked. No one going crazy yet.
Did you get bread and milk? Those are staples. You will die if you don't have bread and milk.
Toilet paper.
We got the bread, we got the milk, had toilet paper, bought some ice cream too, because you need ice cream.
Well, you sound like you're very well prepared for this. It sounds like you're in very good shape. After the show today, I'm going to head out and get some whiskey.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely well stocked on that too. So I got some homebrew in the basement. I need to cool, and we've got some some Gentleman Jack, some Jameson,
Oh, lovely.
some Sailor Jerry.
Lovely. Sailor Jerry. Very nice, very nice. Well, also joining us from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, not out of the grip of Sandy, as it were. We're all in this together, and you, the listener, are joining us. But it's the coach. Hail, hail, coach.
Hail, boys.
Coach, you don't see him. You don't see him fazed by this at all. You know, it's just.
No, I'm sitting here with a cup of mud and some of those awesome sweet soul spiced wafers.
There you go.
The orange and black box that I'm sure you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And
awesome Philadelphia cookies.
Well, I mean, listen. If there's one thing that Philadelphia is known for, if there's one thing Philadelphia is known for, other than Rocky, it is food. People in Philadelphia don't get fat because they have bad food. Let me tell you, if you ever spend time there, you might get fat because the food there is delicious. But as we were talking about, we have this Hurricane Sandy Frankenstorm that's gripping down upon us. So let's just go through the coverage just to give you folks worldwide a sense for what we are dealing with here, and then we'll get into the game. We just need a bit of a deflection coming into this and a bit of perspective and a bit of fun. So here we go. This is Fox News, and for the folks around the world who aren't familiar with Fox News, it's obviously a Rupert Murdoch publication or media source, if you will, and we'll make of that what you will. But here's I'll just describe for you. What's her name? Janice something or other, blonde-haired lady. Lovely enough. Has no meteorological background. She's a broadcaster, but she's going to describe what is going to happen to the northeastern United States starting probably somewhere around Sunday night. Here, give us a listen.
And a Fox News alert to begin happening now on Hurricane Sandy. That storm already slamming Cuba. Now we have brand new tracking, which shows where this massive system might be headed next. And it is not good news for those who live in the northeastern United States.
Dun, dun, dun. Oh, so right off the bat, you got me all clenched up.
You're in the Mid-Atlantic. You're not in the Northeast.
Well, yeah, but keep listening. Keep listening.
Janice Dean has the latest from the Extreme Weather Center. What's going on?
Blonde-haired lady.
If this track comes true, it is the worst case scenario, John. Now, we still have days to go and a lot of information to kind of input into this tracking. But right now, this storm looks like it's going to be headed for millions of people. It's going to be a transitioning system, meaning that perfect storm type scenario.
Perfect storm scenario. So, Rev, if you see Marky Mark down by a boat, tell him to get the hell away, all right? We know how this one ends.
Well,
Isn't that the movie where they had Morgan Freeman and somebody in a big flood thing?
No, man, that's Big Impact or Deep Impact.
No.
Yes, Perfect Storm.
They were riding boats through town.
That wasn't.
No, that's
that was Deep Impact.
Bruce Almighty.
No, shut up. It was it was Morgan Freeman and
listen, both of you call it.
That guy talks like a young Jack Nicholson. Christian Slater.
A storm that transitions into an extratropical storm.
Ooh, extratropical.
A very powerful Arctic cold front is going to interact with the system and draw it in towards the Northeast. A very rare meteorological situation. So this could be historic, folks. If you live across the East Coast, from the Mid-Atlantic up to Maine,
Mid-Atlantic,
Eastern Canada, you need to be paying very, very close attention to your local forecast. Still a Category 2. We just got the 11 o'clock advisory. It was a Category 3 major hurricane overnight, so it rapidly intensified within hours. Take a look at the latest track. As you can see, Category 2 moving through the Bahamas. It hugs the coast Friday into Saturday.
See, that's where you got a dumbass system. It makes its way through the Bahamas and just moves right through. Rev, you can speak to this. The Bahamas is a lovely place.
It's a very lovely place.
But look at what happens as we head into early next week.
The
worst case scenario right now, moving right into millions upon millions of people.
Millions.
This could cause extensive, catastrophic damage. I'm not just standing here making this stuff.
Actually, I think you are.
I want people to really pay attention to this because, again, this could be worst case scenario. At any rate, we're dealing with high seas, rip currents, beach erosion,
well, I'm not near the coast.
Certainly storm surge as this storm moves on shore. The exact point or location where it's going to move on shore still not known yet, and the exact
then you don't know anything.
Still not known yet. But we are going to see torrential rain and flooding inland, high winds, 60, 80 miles per hour, significant power outages that could last for weeks.
Shit.
For millions of people.
Shit. You know what that means. My basement's going to get flooded. No power for weeks. I mean, please, you follow my Twitter timeline. I lost power for 4 days earlier this summer. I almost had a nervous breakdown. Come on, Rev.
I'm not happy. I hate this hurricane.
Coach doesn't give a shit.
I'm not even
You're right,
scared
though.
of
I'm gonna
it.
have to go to work.
Still got foliage
I
on
hung
the
out
trees,
when the last
and
one
winds
hit
in
Hurricane
excess of
Irene.
60,
I was
70, 80
outside
miles per
at the
hour
waterfront,
is going to cause
stomping around like everything was cool.
extensive damage. I just want to show you one of our reliable forecast models.
Oh,
it is really becoming a
She saved us the crappy forecast model and gave us one of the reliable ones. Thank you, Janice.
apparent that we are going to be dealing with a system that is going to come onshore again,
Well,
anywhere from the
I guess that pretty much explains why I give a shit.
Mid-Atlantic
Hard rain.
towards Maine. Need to be paying attention. But John,
Gives a shit about Maine.
our mouths dropped at the latest tracking that shows the system going right into New York City. Obviously, we've got days ahead to really hone in and get this forecast right. But people need to be paying attention. We do think
Come
that
on,
this
Janice.
storm is going
You
to
haven't
come
scared the shit out of
onshore,
me yet.
and it's going to cause a lot of damage.
And it's a big, broad storm, too.
Yeah.
So even as it skirts up the coast,
broad.
it's
It's a big broad.
going to be dumping
storm.
a lot of rain and wind on it.
You know,
Because
since we're
it's-
on the topic, it seems like every year there's the hurricane storm of the century, and yet Fox News doesn't want to, where's the climate change, guys?
Well, why is it that we have a 100-year storm every 5 years? Can we just
Right.
can we just call it the every 5-year storm now? I mean, we got this Muppet,
And it's a broad storm.
Transitioning into the movie The Perfect Storm.
Oh, there we go. It was only a matter of time before we are going to get a perfect storm reference. Marky Mark, get away from the coast. Don't go near that boat.
It's a transitioning storm from a tropical to an extratropical, and what that means is the wind span is going to be greater.
Tropical
winds
to extra tropical, Rev.
It's like extra cheese.
Yes. It's extra tasty for the boys down in Australia. It went from tasty cheese to extra tasty.
extending 300, 400 miles from the center of the storm.
Wow.
It's going to be a battering storm affecting one of the largest city in the nation.
Wow,
Now.
Janice Dean, thank you. And I know you'll have more
We're
on that.
truly beyond the waves.
We are beyond the waves, and pretty soon the waves are going to be
Not for long.
beyond us. So Fox News comes out with a big close. Here, give this a listen.
Throughout the hour. Thank you, Janice.
You bet.
Really want cocks and cocktails dominate.
Wow, cocks and cocktails dominating. Interesting. Thank you, Fox News. Rupert Murdoch. You should be ashamed of yourself, Rupert. Hang on, let's hear that again.
Really want cocks and cocktails dominating.
Wow, that's how they pretty much just wrapped it up. Okay,
Cocks.
so cocks and
What
cocktails.
broadcast is that?
I don't know. Listen, it's all about hurricane preparedness. Cocks and cocktails dominating. So at any rate, oh good. Now the memory function on the console went down, so I was a bit nervous about that. So there you go. Now the listener has an idea of what we're dealing with. The cocks and cocktails are going to be dominating. It's going to slam into the coast. Historic, unprecedented. She's not just standing here making this stuff up, which is reassuring because, for the first 20 seconds, I thought she was totally full of shit. But, it is likely that we'll be without power for some time. So if it's going to be weeks, this may be the last show for quite some time. So that makes us very sad. As much as Coach wants to ruin the dramatic effect that I'm trying to build here.
I am poo-pooing it.
That is the reality. Well, fantastic stuff. Okay, so...
Hard Rain, by the way, was the movie I was talking about.
Yes, we'll have to go see if we can find that on Netflix stream.
They showed that on the ferry to freaking Scotland the day I went to the
Yeah, good choice.
Celtic Hearts game. I was like, "Are you shitting me?
Good choice.
Showing a freaking movie like this on a boat?"
Yeah, they should have shown that Shark Attack movie. Anyway, 2-0 loss to Kilmarnock. First time since 1955. It was almost like there was the flux capacitor involved. Maybe the Doc whipped up the DeLorean and sent Celtic back in time to regain the shit form of Tony Mowbray. But let's just break this down. The layout from the start, I was confused as to what the formation was going to be, as to how this was going to lay out. I mean, essentially, we had 6 defensive players. We had 3 center halves playing, which led me to think it had to be a 3-5-2. But then, you have Miku, who's really your only bona fide striker, leaving him isolated. Commons is going to be in there, yes, facilitating the link up. But 3-5-1-1, I'm not so sure that necessarily works. It tends to get things bunched up. It tends to lead to some confusion, especially when you want to match up against your opponent. If you want to have two strikers to match up to the four at the back and then provide that width on a 3-5-2, well, that was completely missing today. Izagiri and Matthews had absolutely zero license to get forward. We were totally one-dimensional, way too narrow. It wasn't a 3-5-2 coming out. It was more of a 4-4-2 diamond. And in my estimation, I feel that Neil Lennon wanted to reward certain players by jamming everybody into the side that played so well against Barcelona. We'll review the Barcelona game because that cannot be overlooked. But it looked as though we had a layout that was suited to match up against Barcelona once again, when in actual fact we were going up against Kilmarnock. Now, we have lessons from the past going up against Kilmarnock, the League Cup final last year, among other situations where they've really been our bugaboo. The lessons from the past were lacking width. They will give up the flank. So exploit that space. It looked as though we don't have a player on this side right now who wants to hug the touchline and get down to the byline. And that cost us once again. Far too narrow, far too one-dimensional. Why we needed Ambrose, Wilson, and Mulgrew out there, I'll never know. I think that, Paul Larkin made a good point just before we came on in saying that Victor Wanyama was benched as a statement for what transpired during the week. We'll get to that, obviously, with his agent coming out and saying that they knocked back an offer. Neil Lennon wasn't aware of an offer, yada, yada. I'm not so sure that Victor Wanyama coming in and playing in place of F.A. Ambrose would have made a difference. I think that it's a like-for-like sort of analogy to think about, but we're going up against Kilmarnock. They're going to pack the box. They're going to stay compact in the back. They're going to keep everybody behind the ball. And if we're going to gift them goals, they're going to be stingy in giving up goals. I see the logic as to why Neil Lennon wanted to play Miku isolated up top. He made some comments which I'm not necessarily so sure I agree with during the middle of the week, where he called him out. Essentially, he talked about him as having the best technique, the most technical ability in the side currently, but doesn't have the sort of he's not hard enough, I think is essentially, to paraphrase how he described it, which, coming out in public and addressing a player in such a way can work either way. I mean, we've seen it, managers do that from time to time. Alex Ferguson comes to mind as an example of a manager that does that consistently. And we've seen the results of what that takes place. He does it consistently with goalkeepers and strikers, and the list is long of strikers that have gone through as well as goalkeepers and have not been able to meet that. I think it's a bit harsh on Miku, to be honest. Coming in, playing in La Liga, it's a completely different way of playing. It's a completely different physicality and a completely different license that he would have playing in Spain, given the fact that the referees are much stricter on which tackles you can get away with and which tackles are going to be a foul. Much less of the physicality is going to be called in Scotland, and I think that's taking some adjustment for Miku. Obviously, he's had some issues with fitness, and I don't think he's been really laid out in a setup that would foster his development. That being said, he was absolutely atrocious. The service wasn't there for him, but he didn't do himself many favors. He didn't make the runs to make himself available. There were a couple of opportunities where he found him offside, but it seemed to me that the midfielders are taking too many touches, and it's hard to time your runs when you're creative players, when those attacking midfielders who are supposed to set things up, who are making the bullets for him to fire. It's completely unpredictable as to how many touches they're going to take, as to how long they're going to wait. The first instinct across the midfield today was to look for the sideways pass or to pass it back, and we've seen time and again going up against these teams in the SPL that are going to pack the box. They're not going to open up for you. You have to have your head looking up the pitch at all times. And the strikers, in turn, need to be making runs to make themselves available so that there can be one touch. Keep the ball moving. There was absolutely no tempo in the first half, none whatsoever. Chris Commons, for me, that's another example. Chris Commons gets the armband while Charlie Mulgrew and Joe Ledley are starting today. If somebody can please call in and explain to me how that happens, I'd love to hear some sort of logic, because I don't understand. I have no explanation whatsoever as to why that would happen. He got the armband, and it seemed as though he was content to just stand around. No question about it. I've been one of Chris Commons' biggest defenders in the past, but today he was rubbish. Absolute rubbish. Didn't work hard enough for me. His first touch in many situations was just unacceptable. And that's really it. I mean, when he's responsible for the link up, and he's going to play in that manner, then the evidence was right there. We saw it right in front of us. The other thing that's puzzling me is James Forrest. What happened to James Forrest? I mean, he's had moments, flashes of brilliance this season, but for the most part, he's been gash. He's been awful. Now, I don't know whether he's gotten content, he got a new contract, he's getting all sorts of plaudits. I don't know. But he has not been the player that we need him to be, that he has been in the past, that we rely on for that service, for that link up. Maybe he's lost the yard of pace. I don't know. At times, it looks as though he's scared to take on a man and try and get by him. And it shows. That's one element of our side that's really broken down. Now, Neil Lennon at halftime makes a substitution, brings on Gary Hooper, which I completely understand and agree with. I'm not quite sure why he wouldn't have started him if he was going to make him available on the bench, other than putting the pressure on Miku to go out there, and it's almost like the baby bird scenario, as the Rev likes to say, push him out of the nest and make him fly. But it's a tough position to put him in. Very, very tough, especially with the layout that he put him in. Zero service. It's a tough spot to put him in. But what Neil Lennon did, he takes off Kyle. We have a collection of center halves that are trying to piece into the central midfield where we're lacking service. So he takes Kyle off, who is a bona fide midfielder, while leaving Charlie Mulgrew in at central midfield. Charlie Mulgrew is not a central midfielder. He's not. For my mind, Charlie Mulgrew is not a left back. He's not a left midfielder. You can put him on the left-hand side of the midfield when we're playing an ultra-defensive setup against a team like Barcelona. But out with that, why you would play Charlie Mulgrew in the center of the midfield when we're going up against Kilmarnock at home? I have no logic. Absolutely no logic for it. And that I think was the crux of the problem as it progressed into the second half. Was Kyle effective? No. Not by any stretch, but he wasn't terrible. And given the fact that it was such a confusing setup, Ambrose is up. He flips with Mulgrew. Who's supposed to be going where? It seemed as though Mulgrew was running past either Ledley or Kyle, like right in the same exact space, and they're looking around, and there's no communication. There's confusion, slack passes, first touch, absolutely awful across the board. Terrible. Giving up possession way too easily, and when you gift a team like Kilmarnock a goal, like what happened with Adam Matthews, and F. Ambrose made an absolute mess of it, trying to collect it. Not much he could do, but he could have done better than he did. And then, Forster got caught out. I think he probably should have just come out and tried to get the ball. Whatever. It's second guessing after the fact, but we gifted them a goal there. And then we got a weak penalty. And after that, it turns into pressing. Finally Miku comes off. Tony Watt came on, who I thought should have started. No question about it. I don't understand what took away the ability for him to start, or what took away sort of his right. I think he's earned it. Now, this is just, I'll say it again. This was, I believe, in a certain sense, experimentation on Neil Lennon's part. I think there is an element of benching Wanyama to make a statement. I think that there's an element of rewarding players who have worked really hard in training, which is, I have no problem with it. But you can't let go of the overriding mission, which is setting up tactically to deal with the opponent that you're going up against. And we completely let that go. We're joined now by Anthony Chambers. Anthony, you're live with the Beyond the Wave Celtic Football Show. Hail, pal.
Yeah, hail, Graham. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, coming through loud and clear. What do you make of this, pal?
First time calling in. Listened to the show for a long time. This is the first time I've actually called into yourselves.
Cheers, pal.
First of all, I'd just like to ask, how's the coach doing with his migraine? I saw on Twitter he wasn't doing too well.
Coach, how are the migraines? Is the Maxalt kicking in?
Good to go so far today.
Fantastic.
So, thank God, because, Christ, I'm running through the Maxalts like Tic Tacs.
Well, whatever gets you through the night, my friend.
It's barely getting me through the night.
Anthony, speaking of migraines, what would you make of this game today?
Yeah, I mean, I was at the game, Graham. Call me Tony, by the way. But I was at the game, and I mean, I've been a season ticket holder for 16, 17 years, and I mean, I've been to Celtic Park and I've seen us lose, and you're never ever happy, but you can handle it when you see the team put in a performance. But the performance today was just awful. I mean, there was just nothing coming from the team whatsoever, from front to back. I mean, Forster get great credit during the week, and deservedly so. But I mean, today for that first goal, it's when he was coming running out, you make the decision and you have to stick by
with
it.
it. Yep.
I mean, he came running out. You don't change your mind. You go for it. You have to go for it. I mean, he stopped. I still thought, I've not seen it again, but at the game, I thought he could have got it. But you don't change your mind. You go for it.
Agreed. That's what I saw with several different replays, was that he just got caught out. He got caught in between, and you're right. He needs to either make the decision. He's going to try and stay back, cut off the angle, or he's going to come out. And I agree with you. I think that he had the time and the pace to go out and deal with it. Ambrose obviously didn't deal with it, certainly in the best way, but it was a tough position to put him in. I mean, it really started with Adam Matthews.
Yeah. But I just thought that the full team today. I mean, I heard you talking about the formation. I mean, more or less, I know with Commons and James Forrest in the wings, but I mean, we were really playing one up front. I don't think we should ever be playing one up front at home.
No way.
I don't care who it is. I don't care if we're playing Barcelona or Manchester United. We should never ever have one up front at home. Okay, when we're playing away in Europe, yep, one up front, we pack out the midfield. But at Celtic Park, we should never ever have one up front.
We played two up front at the Camp Nou. We played two up front on Tuesday at away to Barcelona. Now we're playing one up front against Kilmarnock.
No. I mean, I don't know if. I mean, I heard when I was coming home from the game, and we were in the car coming home, and I heard Neil Lennon speaking to the radio, and I mean, he said, I picked the team, so. So blame me, and I mean, he was maybe trying a different formation with us one up front, trying to get his wingers playing. But I mean, no, I'm sorry, one up front at home, you just shouldn't be doing that.
No way, no way.
I don't want to see that. It's not what we should be doing. And I mean, Forrest this season he's just not started this season yet at all. I mean, he really hasn't.
Out with the Wraith Rovers game, where I thought he was exceptional, he really has been a passenger.
Yeah, he has. He's really struggled this season. I mean, Commons has played well this season, so I mean, he didn't have a great game today, but I mean, you probably couldn't say anyone did.
Well, but a bit confusing though is, why is Commons having the armband when you have Charlie Mulgrew and Ledley in the starting 11?
Well, Graham, I was just about to ask that to you. I mean, I know you've mentioned that, and I said that to my friends at the game today. I actually raised it last week when we played St Mirren, and Joe Ledley came out with the armband, and I thought, all right, well, Ledley's wearing the armband, but Mulgrew is playing. Okay, he gave it to Ledley, and then today Commons came out with the armband when both Ledley and Mulgrew were playing. We've also this season seen Wilson with the armband as well. So I don't know. I mean, Scott Brown's the captain, absolutely. So is Lennon just looking at, when Scott Brown isn't playing, he's just going to pass the armband around? Is he just looking to maybe give people more responsibility to see how they react? Or I'm not too sure. It depends. I mean, how do you guys look at it? I mean, is the armband just a case of, there we go, we'll give you the armband, and at the end of the day, it doesn't really mean much? Or do you guys think that a captain does mean something?
Well, you know what? I'll start, and then we can send it around. But I don't think that the armband means so much in the broader context, in the context of the overall the team on the day, especially. But when giving it to a certain player, you better be damn sure that the player is not going to crumble, beneath the pressure, because there is a pressure that comes with having the armband. There is a certain mental aspect. Are they going to be able to deal with that? Are they going to? Is that going to foster them on? Is that going to spur them on, or are they going to crumble under the pressure? And judging by the evidence today, I think that maybe Commons felt a little bit of that pressure, and it reduced his effectiveness. I don't know why he got it, but it seemed to have an effect on him in a detrimental way. We've seen that happen in the past with certain players where, they get the armband for whatever reason, and they're just not as effective. Rev, let me turn it over to you, because, you follow the MLS, you tend to get into more of these man management sort of scenarios. What's your take on it, man? Does the armband mean anything? Does it mean anything in the overall context of the team? Does it mean anything in terms of affecting a particular player?
In the long term, no. But I agree with what you're saying. Where on the day it doesn't really mean much who has it, but you want someone who's who has that leadership role and has the testicular fortitude to to be able to adapt to that role. You want someone who's if for example your players are getting chopped at and kicked off the pitch, you want someone who's going to stand up for them and say something, not really get in the ref's face, but just have their back in that regard. But when going back to, I think it was it the last game of the season last year when they were playing pass the armband, where 4 or 5 different players out in the one game where it was captain at some point. That was a little fun, but when like what you said, you had Mulgrew on already, you had Ledley on already. What did Commons do this past week to earn that over them? I mean, I'm totally fine with having a proper captain all the time. If it's Scott Brown, then Scott Brown all the way. And then, having a vice captain, especially now that he's injured, if it's going to be Mulgrew or Ledley, whoever it's going to be, and then that person be the top man for, while they're fit and the captain's out. So to, throw it around to someone who hasn't had the armband yet before, as best as, I can remember, and in a game like this, it's just, I don't know. You want to throw a perfect storm out there again. Today was just a perfect storm of
Jesus,
weirdness.
God. You had to use the perfect storm. Please, testicular fortitude and then the perfect storm. But you nailed it, Rev. I think that the question is that I am left to wonder is, what did Commons do this week to merit the armband? And then on a wider scale, what has he ever done to merit the armband? When has he ever been the guy that's just grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck or looked around and tried to motivate the rest of the side or be that player that's going to sort things out when the referee gets surrounded or something? I'm at a loss. I mean, maybe he had a great week training or whatever. If that's all it takes to get the armband,
right. Is the armband just going to be the gold star? Like, you did good this week, pat on the head, here's an ice cream, Timmy, here you go. What's it signify?
Hey, speaking of ice cream, Coach, I mean, do we need to have a proper, I mean, obviously we have the captain. Scott Brown is the Celtic captain, no question about it. Do we need to have a hierarchy, though, an established hierarchy where we have a captain and then there's a bona fide vice captain, so everybody is clear in terms of what the progression is there? I mean, does that even matter?
I think it's probably best if there was a named captain and an alternate or whatever. The thing with Commons, I guess maybe it was just a reward for he did have a good start to the season.
I mean, can't we get him like a gift card? Can we get him a gift card to Nando's or something, or the armband?
He's not going to run around the field with Nando's card above his head, though.
Yeah, but he could go on Twitter. I mean, come on, let's be honest.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, it will probably save a lot of bullshit about, how come, manager never picks me to wear the armband. Well, because you're not the captain or the alternate. So, shut up and play the game. I think it would probably... It makes it less of an issue or where players are wondering when their time's going to come.
I also think we're looking at this like kind of, logically from the hockey sense, where you have the captain
Jesus,
and the two alternates. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Where it's right on the sweater there, and it's more ceremonial, I think, than even the armband, or at least for the vice captains. There's really no acknowledgement of that per se within football.
Right.
But
it's not ceremonial in hockey.
Okay, all right. Well,
if the captain's not in the game, the alternates are the only guys that can go to the little circle there by the penalty box and talk to the refs.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Tell me it's ceremonial.
Okay, fantastic. You know what? I misspoke. Tony,
baseball, it's pointless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was actually just going to say about the Bay. I know you boys are baseball fans. Rev obviously being a Yankee fan, and Jeter is obviously the captain. And you look at I think, Coach, you're a Red Sox man, aren't you?
Yep.
Yeah, and I know Vertek was obviously the Red Sox captain for a lot of time. So they don't really have vice captains.
No, because
in baseball, do they?
It's basically an honor thing.
Yeah.
Well, listen. Regarding Celtic, let's get back on track here. Tony, thank you so much for calling in. Well, let me ask you this question before we let you go. Miku, there's a lot of debate. There's a lot of debate on Twitter right now. A lot of people making the analogy to Bangura. Is he this year's Bangura? Has he gotten a fair shake so far? Is he really that bad to the point where there are people saying they never want to see him in a Celtic strip before he did get the number 7? It's a bit embarrassing, but is this time that we need to make a decision on Miku to chuck it? I mean, with so much fixture congestion that's coming up and hopefully going to last for a considerable amount of time, it's going to be worthwhile, especially if he comes good. But we haven't seen much from him so far. What's your take?
I think it's still too early to judge the guy. I mean, he didn't have a good game today, but I mean, you could say that about the full team. What I did, when he was getting substituted, the full crowd, myself included, the way he was just sort of trudging off, and everybody was sort of shouting, "Why are you just strolling off? Get off the park! We're losing here. We have to get this. We need to get back in this game here, and you're just sort of strolling off the park. Get off." And then he actually did just go right down the tunnel. I mean, there was kind of no acknowledgement with the bench at all. He just went right down the tunnel.
That's disturbing.
Well, yeah, I mean, he might have just been angry with his own performance, so he just wanted away. I mean, because Commons actually went down the tunnel as well. Commons just kind of got his jacket on, and he went down the tunnel.
Unless they're going to get treatment, I find that disturbing.
I'm the same. I mean, I always think you should stay and support the team. I mean, when you get took off, I mean, when I played football and you get took off, you obviously hung about and supported the team. So I don't like seeing players going down the tunnel. But yeah, I mean, sometimes if a player needs treatment or something, then fair enough. But I mean, I did notice Miku, he just came walking off, and Lennon sort of gave him just a pat in the back, pat in the behind, but he just walked straight down the tunnel, didn't kind of look at the bench or anything like that. I don't know if he was unhappy with.
Hasn't he always been a guy that's had his head down when he's came out of games, though?
Well, I mean, you could say that about a lot of players.
But I mean, he's really, really kind of visually, you can see that he's really down.
I don't know. I don't know if we've seen enough of him just yet, especially in a starting role. He's really come on as a substitute most often. But I agree with Tony. I think it's early days. I think that we have plenty of games coming up, and this is another learning opportunity for Neil Lennon, for Miku himself, and for the side about, how is Miku going to fit into the side? What sort of player is he going to be? I think we answered the question in terms of, is he going to be a lone striker? Tony, I agree with you. He was isolated up top by himself, but he doesn't create chances by himself. He needs a creative midfield player who's going to make the bullets for him to fire. He's not going to make his own bullets. And isolating a player up top like that, who's not going to, okay, if you're going to have a lone striker that's going to hold the ball up and create for other players, that's a completely different story. But I think that Miku is more of a front to goal sort of finisher, and playing in that lone role where he's left up top, and there's some disjointedness between himself and the midfield. That's never going to be successful, and we saw the product of it today. So, yeah. Tony, thanks so much for calling in. Hopefully we can call on you as the season progresses, and we can have happier days. But we really appreciate it, pal.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys. And just I'd like to thank you all for everything you do. You make my journey to and from work so much easier, because normally I'm out on a Saturday night after the game celebrating, not tonight. So you really do make my journey so worthwhile. So I thank you all, yourself and the Rev and the coach, and keep up the good work, guys.
Cheers, pal. Hail.
Okay, hail, boys. Bye.
Tony getting in touch. Good call there.
See, I wouldn't give up on him either. It's way too early.
I don't think we can.
I just thought maybe he was just really dejected and pissed and just wanted to go into the, changing room and throw some shit around and get it out.
Well, I mean, we see this, from time to time when we have players who come in from, other leagues, other countries, other setups where, they're not necessarily familiar with how the Scottish football system works. It takes some time to get adjusted, and I think that there needs to be a feeling out here. Neil Lennon needs to do him some favors and put him in some positions to succeed so that he can build that confidence instead of, pulling the baby bird or whatever. But nonetheless, we are joined from Slovakia by Snake Plissken for his analysis of the beautiful game as well as beautiful birds. Hail, Snake. What's the crackdown in Slovakia?
We are having a party tonight in my school. All the students are here. We're joining you live. We want to say a big shout out to the boys over in the States, and hail to all the Celts all around the world. Hello.
Fantastic stuff. Thank you so much for joining us, Snake. We're delighted, we're humbled. I mean, just don't know what to make of it. Hopefully, you all are having a fantastic time there, in spite of the result tonight. What were your thoughts on what transpired? I mean, it's, in my opinion, it's not something to sort of hang our heads about, sort of dejected. I mean, especially on the heels of such a fantastic performance against Barcelona this past week. I think it's a learning opportunity, and we do have another big game coming up, fast on the heels this coming Tuesday to make things right. But what was your take on the game today? I mean, just confusing, a bit, uncertain from the beginning, and it just never got better as the game went on.
It was flat from the word go till the end. Just didn't work for me. But I'm not going to make a big deal out of it, man, because end of the day, we're still top of the league and we've got a lot to go. And I just make a very brief call to you guys. I'm not staying on, let other people speak. We just all want to say a big hail from the beautiful Slovakia, with all the lovely people who are in the school today. We're all having a very nice stew, very good beef and Guinness stew.
Beautiful.
And we're having a wonderful time. I hope you guys are having a good time too. And I know it's been a rotten day for us all today, but we've got a game very fast to bounce back, and we'll be back, like Schwarzenegger said once.
Lovely stuff. And don't let it ruin your party, Snake. Have a fantastic time.
We all wanted to call in because I've been promising you people. So with all the Slovak girls, shout hello, please. There you go.
Fantastic.
Told you I would get Slovak girls on the show one day.
And you made good on it. We appreciate it. We appreciate the pictures that you post up on the Facebook page as well, pal.
Yeah, man, that was good. That was a good laugh. That's crazy little Gundam style or whatever the hell it's called. Ridiculous.
Lovely.
That's a team here that did that. It was a good joke.
Lovely
Right.
stuff.
So we'll see you soon, and never mind, guys. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. Let's continue. Let's go beat St Johnstone, get into the semi-finals of the League Cup. Then in a couple of weeks we're back in Barcelona playing Celtic again.
There you go.
Hail.
There you go, pal. Hail. Thanks so much for calling in. Snake Plissken getting in touch from Slovakia. There you go, Coach. You got the Slovakian birds. Don't let it get in the way of your bucket of mud, though. Please. Hello. I think we lost the coach.
Ruh-roh.
Maybe he's just disposed at the moment. Nonetheless, thank you so much, Snake. That was fantastic. All the way from Slovakia. Great stuff. Getting in touch on Twitter. Got a tweet from Martin Hutchinson, who is Squire _ 67. He's saying, in my opinion, let me just sort this out.
I was talking to the missus.
You sure were. In the midst of our call with the Slovakian birds. Anyway, Martin Hutchinson's getting in touch.
Was. Okay. She's gone to the store for provisions.
As she would be. Martin is saying, whoa.
That's why you get married, right?
What the?
Thank you so much, Snake. That was
Okay, we just took a caller, but if you're calling in, please turn down the speakers on the radio. Paul, if you get this, please call back, but keep the speakers down. I'm just going to read a tweet real quick. Squire_67. Martin Hutchinson saying, in my opinion, today was part of the progression of a young squad as much as poor team selection, and it's a learning curve mentality-wise. Paul, hail, you're live with Beyond the Waves. If you could just turn down the speakers on your
No problem.
or if you have a television on, just getting some feedback.
Hold on a minute.
Paul, you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, cheers, pal. Thanks so much for calling in. Seeing you in the chat. What's your take on today? I mean, obviously not a lot to be positive about, but in the broader context, I mean, is this something to be concerned about long term? Is this just a bump in the road, like Neil Lennon said?
I just wanted to come on and give you my kind of analysis of the game.
Go ahead.
I felt we came out with completely the wrong attitude. I felt the players came out just expecting it to happen. And never really chased the game at all. And then when Kilmarnock scored, they couldn't raise it again.
I think you're right. I think as soon as they got the goal, it was noticeable that we started pressing and started, the perfect example, Gary Hooper makes a fantastic move just outside the box. And, instead of, he's got two players just behind him in support and he just lets it go. I mean, just an ill-advised chance that he took when, that could have been a scoring opportunity.
I'm not going to, obviously, none of us are going to get all downbeat about a daft league game these days because at the end of the day, it's not really that important at the moment. But we went out there and with the wrong attitude. I really think it was an attitude problem today.
Yeah.
And we couldn't raise it. We couldn't step up. And I think that should be a lesson to the players and to know that no matter who we're playing, we need to go out there and win the game. From the off.
It's not going to be given to us. Kilmarnock showed up today to get a result, and that's what they got. That's why I tweeted right after the game, well done to Kilmarnock, well done to Kenny Shields. Yes, it wasn't the best Celtic performance, but Kilmarnock can't help the Celtic team that turns out. They did what they needed to do. They didn't make mistakes. We did. So fair play to them.
But I just think, there was about 7 or 8 players I mentioned on the chat. 7 or 8 players just didn't turn up. To me, Chris Coleman's attitude today was a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. And Forrest, there was absolutely no width in the game at all.
No.
When have you ever seen Celtic Park and everything is through the middle?
It was completely one-dimensional, and it set right into the hands of Kilmarnock. They packed the box, and we just went right to them every single time. No ideas.
But hopefully that'll be a lesson to them. And I hope Neil Lennon gets them in tomorrow morning and runs them ragged because they didn't do any running today.
No, I agree. I mean, I think that, perhaps there were some players that were run ragged at the Camp Nou on Tuesday. Maybe, certain players needed to be rested.
Well, a boy in your bus, Graham, said, they're knackered because they done all that running at the Camp Nou. That's no excuse. They're professional athletes. And that was 4 days ago. No. I think it was an attitude thing. They've been out there just expecting the game to go their way. They came out there passing the ball about in the middle of the park, just expecting the openings to happen. There was no urgency. There was no real get up and go in the team. And that just continued through the game. And when Kilmarnock scored, they couldn't lift it. And I just feel that was how it went. But let's face it, at least we've got Safeco to worry about. We're going to win the league. Barcelona next week, and hail and all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
Do you think that as long as we're in Europe, the league games are going to be a massive secondary concern?
No, they're definitely no secondary concern. They've got to be concerned because at the end of the day, I'll be going to Tannadice next week and I'll be paying a fortune to take my boy. So it's a concern. Because I want to go. We should be out there going and want to break records.
For us paying the cost, yeah. I mean, for the team itself, are they so mind only on Europe Champions League games?
Some of them, I think some of the players might think that, but that's got to change.
Yes,
and,
I agree.
Today has got to say to them and the management, I've got to say to them, this isn't good enough. That's why I'm saying they should be in tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, and ran ragged for that performance, because that was a bad attitude.
Yeah,
That's why we get beat today.
Paul, my eyes saw exactly what yours did, and I completely agree. Let me ask you a question. In terms of the starting 11, in terms of the lineup and the players that were selected, were you surprised to see such a defensive setup coming against Kilmarnock, especially, and a very narrow setup, especially in light of, this was essentially the same thing that happened in the League Cup final last March. We were very narrow. They gave us space on the flanks. We didn't exploit it. Our fullbacks didn't get up the park, and we just essentially did the same thing. We catered to what they were doing, and they hit us on the break. And the exact same thing happened today. I mean, I was surprised not to see Tony Watt. I was surprised, that it's almost like, yes, Kelvin Wilson had a fantastic performance on Tuesday, but did he need to play today? If you had to have two center halves, I say always Mulgrew needs to be in the side in some way, shape, or form, and his best position is center half.
An absolute shocker today.
And he had I completely agree. Playing central midfield is not that's not set up for Charlie Mulgrew. He needs to play center half. He was put in a position that is not ideally suited to him. Yes, he had a shocker today, but you need to temper it with the situation where, if you play him out of position, he's not going to be at his best. I would have definitely dropped Kelvin Wilson, moved Charlie Mulgrew back into center half, or, if the decision needs to be made on who's going to be partnered with Charlie Mulgrew, make it between Ambrose and Wilson. If you want to have Wilson instead of Ambrose, fair play. But Charlie Mulgrew needs to be in at center half. He cannot be picked and chopped and placed all over the place and expect to have the same output from him.
I know. Me and you are going to disagree here, Graham. But I would have Charlie Mulgrew. Obviously, I think he's good at centre half. But I don't know why Izagirre's still getting a game. I can't understand why Izagirre is still playing. I would have Charlie Mulgrew out there, because that left-hand side has been terrible for weeks, since the start of the season. I would have Charlie Mulgrew out there, because Izagirre is giving you nothing. He's giving you nothing. And you can't... I don't know. We know he's got the ability. It's the same as Gary Hooper in the new camp the other night, when everything was bouncing off him like a pool cushion. He was like a green and white wall. But then again, we know he's got it in him. He pulled the ball in, and we know he can hold it up. And I just don't understand why Izagirre is not getting dropped.
Paul, let's shift gears. We've done the game today to death. Make of it for whatever you will. Let's move past this, okay? Because here's the point. Sometimes Manchester United loses to Everton. Sometimes Chelsea loses to Wigan. Sometimes Barcelona loses to Hercules. It happens. We're not gonna win every game, and you know what? We're gonna lose some games, and we're even gonna lose some games at home. We'll move past this. We're still at the top of the league with a game in hand by 2 points. But let's talk about that Barcelona game that you just mentioned. Gary Hooper, balls bouncing off of him all night long. I mean, especially after Samaras went out, I felt bad for him. Because it seemed as though he's running all over the place, but he always had two men right up against him all at the same time. I mean, fair play to all of the players that played there. I mean, one of the best organized performances by any team, let alone a Celtic team. I sent out the tweet right after. It was 93 minutes of watching the best Celtic performance I've ever seen, and then getting punched in the dick. But here's the question I have for you. Gary Hooper was rendered essentially ineffective, but I mean, he had absolutely zero service with good reason. Do you think, coming back to Celtic Park in 2 weeks' time, or round about 10 days' time, I mean, we have to have two strikers. No question about it. We cannot play the single striker, lone striker up top. Tell me what your thoughts are there.
I would play the exact same way. Especially if Samaras is back.
Well, that's the key. That's the key. Samaras going out was the dagger for us. I mean, it was a completely different side from then on.
I was in the new camp. I was in the new camp, Graham, right? And I'm away up in the gods, and I'm looking down on the pitch, right? It's like watching it from what you have over there, one of the big balloon things, Led Zeppelins, whatever you call them.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it was like. And watching the game, and as soon as Samaras, because he knows how to play in Europe.
Yeah.
He gets the ball, and as soon as he's touched, he's down.
And they are terrified of him. You can tell. They are terrified of him.
Gary Hooper takes the ball. Maybe it's a bit of inexperience, I don't know. But Gary Hooper's pulling the ball in, and he's standing on his feet, and the ball's bouncing off him. Hooper should just be going down right away.
Yeah,
I agree. And then, well, he might not get the foul, but I would say about 50% of the time he probably will. And I saw in it's all a psyche thing. I think we're too honest for our own good at times.
Well, you know what? Fair play. You know, that's another fantastic point that you bring up that I wanted to get to. Look at how few fouls there were throughout that entire game going up against Barcelona. When do you ever see that? You know, people talk about, you know, fat, burnt, whatever the hell his name is, Burnt Schuster or whatever the hell, talking about negative football and you know, anti-football and all this, you know, just absolute horseshit. Look at, when has there ever been a team that's gone out there and played the negative football? You know, look,
he gets sacked for saying that Barcelona are unbeatable.
Well, you know, and you know, so that essentially disqualifies the source. But when has there ever been a side that's gone out and matched up to Barcelona and done that without kicking lumps out of Messi, without kicking lumps out of Xavi, Iniesta? We did it the right way. We played clean. We played good defending. I mean, the art of the tackle was displayed there. Some of the best tackles I've ever seen from a Celtic side were displayed there. They were absolutely fantastic, and I think the blueprint is right there. If we lay out the exact same way with Samaras coming back and playing playing alongside Hooper on that left channel where we know he's most effective, I think it's even money.
But when Samaras went off, I mean, all around me, everybody, I mean, who would have thought it 2 years ago?
Exactly.
Everybody around me, it's going to be a big loss.
Exactly.
And I mean, then we were all looking at each other saying, are we actually saying this here?
Exactly. But you know what? Even after he went off, it was a performance to be proud of. I mean, you know, everybody banded together. The organization was absolutely phenomenal. And the tweet was sent out, and I completely agree with it. I hope they didn't exchange their shirt with anybody. They should be keeping it. You know, because every one of those players that was on that park that night and turned in that performance, that was heroic. And you know, we'll be talking about that for a long time, no question about it. Paul, thank you so much for calling in, pal. Please call in again. You know, we want to hear from you as the season progresses. You know, really appreciate your thoughts.
God bless you. Thanks for the entertainment, Graham. Okay, I'll speak to you soon.
Yep. Cheers, pal. Hell.
Good night.
Paul calling in from Drum Chapel, drumchapelceltic.com.
That's funny.
What's funny?
I was just gonna say, going back to your point about, you know, sometimes you lose to, you know, the underdog wins the game and beats you. I was going to say, you know, sitting watching the game today, you see Tony Watt boot a sitter all the way to Drum Chapel. That's what I was laughing at.
Yeah.
And, you know, Izzy being offside on what would have been a goal.
Yeah.
You just get the feeling that it just wasn't our day.
No, it really wasn't. I mean, from the start, the layout was wrong, in my opinion. Playing one striker at home, I'll never know. I think. Sorry, Rev. Going back to, you know, my original point, I think that Neil Lennon was more interested in cramming certain players into the side, forcing certain players into predicaments, situations where they needed to step up, or where he was rewarding certain players, and he completely forgot about the tactics against the opponent that we were going up against and how to play against them. Too focused on internal issues, not focused enough on how to break down the opponent. And hopefully this is a lesson. You know, I mean, let's be clear here. Neil Lennon is dealing with an unbelievable amount of things on his plate at the moment. He's dealing with Champions League. He's got Burnt Schuster coming out and talking all sorts of rubbish. He's got Wanyama's agent up his ass like a suppository. I mean, you know, granted, this is part of the job. This is why he has the big chair. This is what he needs to deal with as a part of the job. But this is another learning opportunity. This is a new experience in a sense for Neil Lennon. You know, not only have we not been in the Champions League before in his tenure, but we haven't been in a position in the Champions League, you know, where we've gotten so many plaudits, where we've turned in performances like this. That's as much of an issue to deal with as poor performances, in my opinion. How a manager deals with great performances and continuing them on, that's what makes great managers. Not so much turning around bad performances. You know, we've seen lots of experience, lots of instances and examples of managers that come in, turn around a horrible situation and make it good again. The great ones take great performances and continue them. Look to Alex Ferguson, you know, as an example with that. And instilling and maintaining that hunger amongst the side, not just in terms of their mentality, but in terms of how they are laid out to go at players. That's something that's acquired over years and years, even decades of management. Neil Lennon isn't there yet, but these are lessons that he needs to learn. And, you know, he's proven over his CV I guess you could say. There have been situations where we've had plateaus, we've had dips, we've had valleys, and he's learned from it, and he's come back, and he's grown, and he's gotten better. I have no reason to think that this is not going to be exactly the same going forward. I'm sorry, before I went into that rant, I cut you off, Rev.
No, it's cool. I was just gonna say I'm glad somebody brought up the League Cup final last year because 20 minutes or so into the game, I had a feeling it was going to play out very similarly. Where it's this team, Kilmarnock's really not anyone to sleep on. They shut us down last year, in the final, and they deserve to win. And they doesn't seem that they've changed much this year. If anything, they probably got better. So to go out there and use the same tactics that didn't work last time on for all intents and purposes a better side, that just it doesn't make sense. And to think that we're just gonna crack their defense and not even getting into playing a lone striker at home and playing defensively and all that, obviously, but you just got to go and look at the bigger picture and just say, all right, this didn't work last time, what's it going to take this time? And we just kept throwing the troops into the meat grinder over and over again. It didn't work. Hopefully when we play them again, I don't know when we do have our next game against them, but hopefully we can get that sorted and play a wider game and two up top, or play a 3-5-2 or 3-4-3 or something like that. And
yes.
something like that.
Yes, absolutely, no question about it. Getting some feedback in chat about how we say drum chapel. So there you go. Once again, people think it's funny how we say drum chapel.
Asses.
Drum chapel.
Chapel.
Say it like a Muppet. Drum chapel. We're joined now by, and we have a bit of, speaking of fixture congestion, we have a bit of congestion on the lines, which is great. Jerry, you're next up. We have one in the queue. So we're trying to take calls one at a time. So, Jerry, sit tight. We'll get right to you. Josh Gaffney has joined us. The great Josh Gaffney of CelticTalk.org and Homeboys Down Under. He's the straight man, I guess, if you will, from Homeboys Down Under, doing fantastic stuff with the Hail Hail Media website. He's joining us now live on Beyond the Waves Celtic Football Show. Hail Hail, Josh.
Hail Hail, Graham.
We are trying to make sense of the game today. You know what? Forget it. The game today is over. Let's talk about happy thoughts. Are you ready for happy thoughts, Josh? Let's talk about Barcelona. Let's talk about the game there. Let's talk about the heroic performance, as I termed it. Ooh, hello. There goes my paper shredder. What was your takeaway from the Barcelona game, and specifically in the context of the coming match against them at home? Have we? Let's point out a couple of things. First off, they were missing Dani Alves. They were missing Puyol, Piqué, Biscuits, or as I like to call them, Biscuits. It's plausible to say that some of those players, if not all of those players, will be back for the tie in Celtic Park. Is that going to make a damn bit of difference?
No. At the Barcelona game, I thought that defensively we were absolutely brilliant. Efe Ambrose, brilliant performance. Fraser Forster, brilliant performance. Ledley and a couple of others had, put in some of their best, possibly their best performances of their life in a Celtic shirt. Mm-hmm. Possession-wise and attacking-wise, as the game went on, I thought we got a little bit weaker, and the line kind of fell back a bit, and that's probably why we lost the game. Unfortunately, we didn't hold out for that other minute, but I think we did the best that we could at the new camp, and it sets us up well for the game at Celtic Park, because Barcelona are going to be coming to the stadium knowing that Celtic will be able to score against their defence effectively. So we're going to pose a threat at Celtic Park, which means that they might put out a more defensive lineup.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect it. When you talk about the more defensive lineup, still, when you're talking about Barcelona, that is not the way that they play. They have an ethos. They have a creed almost of the style of play that they are going to set out and play, and they're almost even disinterested with results at the expense of playing a certain way. It's almost like, what Tony Mowbray tries to do with, the players that are not best suited to that style. But nonetheless, they only know one way to play, and that's attack. I mean, to your point, and your defense, they do sometimes set out with more of a defensive lineup. That being, the example of that would be when Busquets would line in, not really so much as a center half, but that holding midfielder. That's more of when they would play a 4-1-4-1 formation, or even like a 4-1-4-0 at times, with Messi playing the false nine. But nonetheless, they only have an on switch, and they don't have speeds. It's full speed, nonstop, fifth gear all of the time. With that being said, if we can defend the way that we did, and not park the bus. I'm not even saying that. And we didn't park the bus. There's a huge difference between parking the bus and playing a good, clean defensive game. We talked about it just now. There was one yellow card throughout the entire game. When is the last time a team went out and shut down Barcelona like that, shut down Lionel Messi without kicking him up and down the park? I can't remember. And Celtic did it. And full credit to Kelvin Wilson and F.A. Ambrose. I mean, you talk about, Messi and Iniesta and Xavi pulling 1-2s almost inside of a telephone booth. F.A. Ambrose was defended within a telephone booth. It was absolutely phenomenal at times, and everybody was taking part in it. And I mean, even Wiezi was putting in fantastic tackles. I know Paul's not going to agree with that, but fair play. I think that if we go out with that same mentality, and it's not even quite a siege mentality, because when we had opportunities, we were going after it. But the reality is we're not going to have a confluence of opportunities. This is Barcelona we're going up against. Let's be real, okay? We're not going to have much of the ball, but when we get the ball, we need to make the most of it. And I think that we had some attacks, we had some efforts going forward. And fair play to Georgios Samaras. Nobody's been harder on him in the past than I've been, but I've completely turned that around, as he has, in relation to how he has. And he's going to be absolutely vital coming back for us. But in relation to the setup, I think we need to go at it in a very similar way to the way that we did this last time. Josh, let me ask you another question here, which has tended to draw up a bit of controversy on Twitter and elsewhere. And that's Scott Brown. Scott Brown came off in the Barcelona game about 60 minutes, and he was absolutely gubbed. You could see it on his face. You could see he mentioned something to Neil Lennon, shook his head. Neil Lennon had a concerned look on his face. His face was beet red. I mean, we're dealing with a player who has a degenerative hip injury. Okay, this thing isn't getting better until he has surgery. My question to you is, when do we say that it's enough? When has Scott Brown had enough? When do we shut him down? And I took a lot of stick on using this terminology on Twitter, but what I mean is, when do we say enough? Scott, go have your surgery, get yourself well, come back next season fully fit. And instead of, my opinion is, every game that we play him, he's able to proceed in shorter and shorter increments. We get maybe 70 minutes out of him. Now we get 60 minutes out of him. Then he comes off at halftime in the Scotland tie. I mean, is it getting to the point where a 75% Scott Brown isn't helping us, it's actually hindering us? Because, people talked about how much he had to run around against Barcelona. You know what? Scott Brown fully fit would run for days. He's like a dog chasing a stick. There was obviously something amiss there. Now, I don't know if 2 weeks' time is going to fix it. It's going to continue to get worse until he addresses it on a more permanent basis. When do we decide that time has come, Josh?
Well, I don't know why he wasn't playing today. I guess it's because of his hip injury, and Neil Lennon didn't want to play him just a few days later. I think the main reason he's probably not had an operation, if he needs one already, is because of these big Champions League games, because he is essential in these Champions League games. We've seen it against Spartak Moscow. So, I'd say if he really, really needs it, I'd say hold on until January. If he doesn't need it urgently, then maybe the summertime. But I guess it's for the doctors and that to decide.
See, my opinion,
we don't really know how Scott Brown's feeling.
But we can see. But Josh, we can see. What is taking place in front of us. I don't want to say it's heartbreaking, like to get overly dramatic, but I mean, it grips you when you see Scott Brown come off the park, as we did on Tuesday, looking the way he did. I mean, almost helpless, and factor into it. Yes, he's the Celtic captain because of that mentality, and that mentality may work as a detriment to him. He doesn't, just like Barcelona, he does not have an off switch. He's never going to step up and say, I can't go anymore. He's going to go until he's run into the ground. He's almost like the Monty Python Knight. I mean, he can lose a limb and he'd still go. Someone needs to step up at some point and say, this is for your own good. This is for the betterment of your career overall. Because the longer he goes, in my opinion, the more in jeopardy it puts his long-term prospects, his long-term footballing career. Degenerative hip injury, very, very serious, especially for a player that relies on work rate, pace, and just that ball-winning sort of box-to-box central midfielder that he aspires to play at. I think, leaving it up to him, I think, is a mistake. And it's not to take anything away from him. I just think that he will never stop. And in a certain element, somebody mentioned it, and I think it was Paul in the chat room. He's scared to stop. I could sense that. I could understand that. When is his last game going to be? He might be scared that, if I shut it down now, I have the surgery, it's not successful. Have I played my last game? I mean, there's a lot of things that enter into this. All I know is every time we see him, he becomes less and less effective. He plays for a shorter and shorter amount of time. And this could be jeopardizing his long-term prospects, his long-term footballing career. And that's what I'm most interested in. A player that we're paying $25,000 a week to, I don't want to shorten his career for any shorter than it needs to be.
Yeah. How old is Scott Brown? Is he
27?
27?
Yeah.
Well,
I'm older than Scott Brown. Jesus Christ.
How old is he?
He's 20. Sorry.
Hi, Amy.
I had to throw that in.
All right, so Josh, one last thing. Thank you so much for calling in, and always really glad to get your thoughts on everything. Victor Wanyama's agent came out this week, Rob Moore. Jerry, sit tight. We got you next up, all right, pal? Victor Wanyama's agent came out this week, Rob Moore, and made mention of them knocking back a contract that Celtic had submitted. What's your take on this? I mean, we're also sort of led to believe that Victor was kept on the bench today as a sort of a statement to him. Where do you stand on this? I mean, Victor Wanyama is not going to play his full career for Celtic, okay? So if anybody had any illusions about that, please forget it. It's not going to happen. He's going to be sold on. Maybe it may be soon. It may not be very soon. But it's going to happen, and it's going to happen for a lot of money. So first off, with that expectation, this isn't going to be the last time something like this happens with him or any other of our players. It's a great problem to have. But with that being said, do you think that maybe there was a bit of an overreaction? I mean, I know Victor Wanyama, right after that statement came out from his agent, got loads of tweets, coming in from people, calling his character into question and everything else. I mean, what's your take on this? First offers very rarely are taken. Do we have anything to be concerned about in terms of him being sold in January, like was being alluded to in Twitter?
I've quoted again and again, almost every time a Celtic contract renewal comes up, there's at least one big story about them. There's a big story about Scott Brown. There's a big story about Kyle. There's a big story about Aidan McGeady. There's a big story about Arthur Burge, and so on. And this is Victor Wanyama's big story. Now, we'll see how it develops over the next few weeks, but I'm going to guess in a few months, he'll probably sign a contract, and he'll be sold either at the end of next season, not the end of this season, or the season after that.
No question.
So I'd say Victor Wanyama's probably got at most 2 years left at Celtic.
I agree.
It's probably a lot shorter than that.
I agree. And it will do him good. I mean, let's not overreact here and anoint him the second coming. He's a fantastic midfielder, especially for a 20-year-old or 21-year-old. But he still has a lot of development to do, a lot of maturing to take place there. I think at times his passing is a bit suspect, but so much of what he does has been an inherent part of our success so far this season and a big part of last season. And long may it last. I don't think that this is anything to be concerned about or a come and get me sign. I mean, especially when he himself has said nothing but positive things about his time at Celtic and how he wants to stay here. I don't think we have anything to worry about. But Josh, great stuff. Thank you so much for calling in, as always. And we'll be back this week with the Paradise preview, looking ahead to the coming game against Dundee United, I suppose. But Josh, thanks so much, pal, and we'll talk to you soon.
Hill, glad to be in the show, and it's probably hard to do these episodes against a loss, so I appreciate that you're doing it after a tough game where there might be a lot of tension.
Thanks, pal. Yep, it's never easy, and it's never easy to sort of turn around and make it positive, but we're trying our best, especially with a hurricane coming down. But great stuff, pal. We'll talk to you soon. Cheers. Josh Gaffney, absolute legend. Homeboys Down Under coming to you on Fridays now with Paul Larkin and Josh, working out some technical glitches yesterday, but fantastic stuff from Paul Larkin, the Green and White writer. Don't forget, his book is coming out this week. I have a copy. I'm trying to get down to the Washington Monument to take some pictures, but Hurricane Ballbag is really screwing that up. I got a message in from the Parrot. He's on the bus. He says, on the bus for the G, a shout out for the Celtic Graves Association today. A very humbling experience to be in such great company. No question about it. Celtic Graves having an event today, I believe, for Jimmy McGrory. So shout out to everybody associated with that today. Fantastic cause, and it would be an absolute dream for us to make it over for one of them. That would be fantastic. Gary, if you're listening, or Jerry, I'm sorry. If I've been calling him Gary before, I apologize. Jerry, if you're listening, give us a call now. Lines are open, and we'll hold it for you. But talking about that Big Vic thing and his agent, I mean, it's not like we haven't seen this before. Where we saw it with Kyle. We saw it with we're seeing it to a certain extent with Gary Hooper. I mean, this isn't the first time this has happened with Celtic players. It's definitely not going to be the last. Coach, what do you make of this? I mean, as soon as anybody's agent comes out and says something stupid, which they're going to do, because they're.
You mean like my player can't take getting booed?
I'm sorry, was that English?
Yeah. I didn't say that right?
What was that?
I said, do you mean like the agent coming out and saying his player can't take being booed?
That's a perfect segue coming up, my friend. I appreciate that, but let's take a call from Jerry McMahon. He's been waiting patiently trying to get on.
Do my point on this Wanyama,
and we really appreciate him calling in. Okay, Jerry, hang on 1 second. Coach, give your Wanyama point.
Okay, my Wanyama point is, unless his agent's trying to be the Scottish Scott Boris, at this point, there's no reason to be fighting this war in the press.
Agreed. Jerry, if you could turn down your speakers, we're getting a little bit of feedback, pal.
All right, hang on. That's a perfect segue. I don't know how I'm. All right. Right.
Or if you could turn the show off just for a couple minutes. Actually, you don't need to turn the show, or you don't even need to have the show on because you're on the show. You're talking live with us. Thanks so much for calling in, pal.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, loud and clear.
Hi there, Graham. First of all, I first listened to the show, and it was the show with Paul Larkin, and I thought it was an absolutely incredible show. Such a revealing insight into, Paul's life, and, the Celtic support in the US. As a lifelong Celtic fan, I thought it was just a wonderful listen. And this is only my third show now. But I really salute you guys because it is very interesting, and it's also great that you have an unlimited opportunity really to talk about all things Celtic without adverts, and you get the opportunity to speak with like-minded people. So that's fantastic. First of all,
cheers, Jerry. Really appreciate it. I mean, I that really makes it worthwhile. I'm speaking. I'm sure for Rev and the coach as well. That's really why we do it. To provide an alternative to the Clyde One and BBC Scotland. I mean, just the biased, the ignorance that comes out of there, and just the usual. I mean, you know what to expect, and like you said, it's like-minded people. We're going to call it like we see it, but try and inject some context into it. So that it's not just an anti-Celtic spin all the time, and provide a forum where Tims like yourself can call in, and we're not going to talk over you. We're not going to cut you off. We want to hear what you have to say, and we're united across the world. So we really appreciate you listening, and we're glad that you're enjoying it. You mentioned the interview with Paul Larkin. I mean, Paul, once again, I just mentioned his book is coming out on Halloween, and there's certain people where they just interview themselves. I mean, I'm just here pushing buttons. He's really a credit to the Celtic support, and I'm lucky to be able to consider him a friend. So we really appreciate it, Jerry. Well, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I'm going along to the book launch on the 24th of November.
Jealous,
Graham, and quite interesting. Over the last 18 months, I've crossed swords in Radio Clyde and a whole number of occasions in the Sevco situation, and I think I've managed to land a few punches over the piece. So, sometimes I do think you have to take the argument to them, particularly in the last 18 months when it looked as if Sev might be readmitted. And I think it was important to kind of take the argument to these shows, because I do think it does have an influence in public opinion and the decisions that we're taking. So, whilst I shared your concerns about them, I thought a lot of Celtic fans went on to Radio Scotland and Clyde, and I think, made clear the whole ridiculous carry-on that was going on over at Ibrox Way. So, whilst I think these shows are fantastic, I don't think we ever ignore these places, because I think we always have to get the Celtic viewpoint across, Graham.
Too true. Yeah, and you taking the onus and understanding that, yes, it is going to affect public opinion and building a consensus for decisions that are going to be made and turning the tide, so that the truth could be revealed and light could be shown on the misdeeds that Rangers had done for decades. Let's be honest, and that is an important point. It does get frustrating at times. We should have an alternative, but in terms of the local media and the outlet there, you bring up a very good point that the contrary opinion to the majority there should be revealed, because especially when it's us that's going up to the rooftops that's shouting down the truth. So it's fantastic work.
Graham, is it okay to talk for a minute or two about today?
Yeah, please. What were your thoughts on the performance today? I mean, what was your thoughts seeing the lineup? The starting 11. I was confused.
Well, something. I mean, one thing that I fully agree with you on was the performance of James Forrest, because I thought today, yet again, it was disappointing. And apart from the impact throws he's made in the European matches, his performances in a domestic sense have just been sadly lacking. And I also think there is a problem for me with Sevco's demise in that, I don't think the atmosphere at Celtic Park is quite what it once was. I think, it perhaps is a factor that the fans realise that they can afford to drop points, they can possibly afford to lose games, and perhaps they don't drive the fans on in the same fashion. I think the atmosphere has dropped to a certain extent, and I think it might take the team, the club, the support a wee bit of time to get our heads round that. They aren't going to be with us for at least 4 years, and in that sense, some of the tension's gone, and that in some respects can be a negative point. But on the positive side, I'm hoping when you think of some of the younger players, that towards it, Dylan McGeer.
Yes.
And some of the young defenders, Callum McGregor.
Yes.
I'm hoping that the run in Europe will allow us that while there is that negative there, it will give us 4 years to develop young players and integrate them into the team. It's perhaps an opportunity that we've never had before, and I'm hoping we take it, because we've already proven in the last 2 or 3 years that what we're doing at a youth level and what we're doing at recruitment seems to be working very well. So I think there are positives and negatives there, and I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that.
Yeah, you know what? I would. Jerry, thanks so much for calling in, pal. Hopefully we can call on you again as the season progresses, and as we make runs in 4 different competitions. It's going to be absolutely phenomenal. We really appreciate you listening in. To take that question on, I think that I was expecting exactly what you were describing there to take place today. The Twardziks, the McGeochs, maybe even the McGregors, but obviously and it's strange to hear this or to say this, but we're awash in quality center halves and defenders and central midfielders. So it's hard for a center half to crack into the side. But nonetheless, Philip Twardzik, I think I was expecting maybe to get a shout today, especially in light of the fact that, Ledley, Kyle, Wanyama, Ambrose, they played so much football as of late. They're going to be playing a lot of football coming up. Hopefully this game on Tuesday, we'll see some of them come back into the side because, on a broad scale for the month of August, I thought Philip Twardzik was superb, but he needs to continue playing and continue developing. Same with Dylan McGeoch. He's been fantastic every time he's come on. And I was a bit disappointed not to see them. And that brings up another element here where, we need to continue giving them opportunities, giving these young players like James Forrest once had, like Charlie Mulgrew once needed, giving them opportunities to play in the starting 11, even if it's the League Cup or the Cup or maybe an SPL side. Giving them chances to play with the regular starting 11, that's how they're going to develop. It's not going to be these bounce games. It's not going to be the developmental games, although Tony Watt has been, just a breath of fresh air coming from those development games. But they need to get some exposure here, and I thought we had an opportunity to do that today with this tie against Kilmarnock, especially. I would have been in favor of a more attacking sort of setup. And I think Twardzik brings that ability. I think that we do have an element of a number 10 within Twardzik. I think he needs to toughen up a bit. I think he needs to get a bit stronger on the ball, not get pushed off the ball so easily. And I have seen progress from him so far, but I think we have a number 10 in development in him, and I'd like to see him start playing, especially in some of these cup games, so that he can continue the development that he's had further on. But in terms of the scouting network and in terms of the talent that we've been bringing through, I don't think that there is a scouting network on the face of the earth that is as good as the one that Celtic has. I mean, I don't know if you can think of another side that can find a Victor Wanyama for less than $1 million, or I'm sorry, £1 million rather.
Graham, can I just say that what you see at the moment is good, but also at the training ground at the moment, they've got an elite group of young players.
Yes.
And, they're training them in the morning before school. I think they're training them at lunchtime. And then in the evening after school, they're getting more support. So, I think what we should see in the next 4 to 5 years are Celtic players whose technique will exceed anything that we're seeing at the moment. And, I think when if that proves as successful as when you go to, the Barcelonas or some of the big European clubs, it won't just be about putting on a brilliant defensive performance, but if that technique improves significantly, we can actually possibly give them an open game of football and, possibly progress by having more of the possession that we did on Wednesday evening. That's not to take anything away from how we did perform, but I think, that's excellent what's happening. And I think the final point I was going to make is I think we need to get a bit of context about today's result, because 12 months ago my daughter and I were watching the Kilmarnock game. We were 3-0 down. It looked as if Neil Lennon was possibly going to get the sack.
Yeah.
And you look today, we're a club reborn. Not only have we won the league and have good talented players that have a good market value, but we've also made remarkable progress in Europe. And I think for all of us, the story is just wonderful and amazing. And I hope we continue to go from strength to strength. I hope you guys are enjoying that journey over there. But for me, as a guy that goes to matches and has done for the best part of 35, 40 years, it's just absolutely amazing. And I think today is very much a minor setback, and that's the way it should be viewed.
Bang on, Jerry. Absolutely spot on. Brilliant call. Thank you so much for getting in touch, and hopefully you call us again as the season goes on, and look forward to more brilliance from the side.
Graham. Pleasure. Thanks again.
Cheers, pal. Hell.
Cheers.
Getting a lot of first-time callers this week, and good callers as well. Thank you so much to Paul and Jerry there for getting in touch. Really great stuff. Guys, what's your thought? In terms of the scouting network, the point that I was getting at is I can't think of another club on the face of the earth. Maybe some of these Portuguese clubs are in terms of the cash raising element of it. I mean, look at some of the transfer fees that they got for some of their players, but I think we're on that same track. What other club is going to bring in a Victor Wanyama for less than $1 million, and now who knows what he's going to be sold on for? Gary Hooper is another one. Who is being valued, being chased by EPL sides. Coach, you set me up perfectly with agents who complain about their players being booed. Gregory Ioannidis, I believe, is it's Sammy's agent, and he once threatened to sue anybody who was going to critique Sammy on Twitter. Very precious. He's talking about the things that he's hearing, the sort of volume that he's hearing from his colleagues is that there are EPL sides that are desperate for the signature of many of the Celtic players. Obviously that's going to drive up their value, supply and demand, obviously, but that's a real testament to the scouting network. We bring in this talent, and we don't just put it on display and showcase their talents, but we show how they can fit into a cohesive unit and display results. Every television across the world. Every sports bar, every gym across the world between, those 2 hours that Celtic and Barcelona were playing had that game on. My wife was in Panama. They had a sports bar in the hotel that she was staying at. Every television was focused in on that game. And there's probably countless examples of that across the world. There's no bigger scope. And that's what Celtic brings for these younger players coming through. Don't let any EPL fan, don't let any West Brom fan or Wigan fan tell you any differently. Celtic is a giant club. It's worldwide, and it provides these opportunities. And the scouting network is really the reason why there has been this renaissance, this rebirth, as Jerry just described it, with Neil Lennon coming through and developing these young players. Coach, what's your thoughts?
I think we have a good scouting department, whatever you call it, because we have to have a good one. If we want to compete, we have to be able to find the players that are good enough to where we're reasonably sure they're going to be developed into great players if we want to be able to compete.
No question.
So it's a matter of, if you don't have a good scouting group of guys scouting, then, you're going to keep buying crap players, and it's a waste of money, so they have to spend smart money.
Well, not only that, but the scouting network, it works almost twofold, and there tends to be the response like, well, so what? We're just going to be a feeder club. Well, yes and no. You can keep a nucleus of players as they come through. It's almost a conveyor belt. Wanyama comes through last year, develops, showcases his skills, gets loads of attention. Now all sorts of people are in for him. Well, now we have Ambrose right on his heels. And it's just a conveyor belt. And every year we just keep doing the same thing. Next season we'll bring in another Ambrose because we have that scouting network that's attached, that's doing the right things, that has their model, and it's going to continue. There's no reason to think it's not going to continue. Ever since Neil Lennon came in, and essentially, my assumption is, and my assertion is, that Neil Lennon has given John Park a lot of the say in terms of who the signings are, and given it a lot of credence, as opposed to maybe some managers in the past that had their own ideas. And we've seen the product of that. And long may it last. There's no reason why we should see it discontinue. The first year, with the 9 players that we brought in, every one of them except for Juarez and Murphy was fantastic. Those two were ditties, but not everyone's going to be a prince. Following year, we bring in we bring in Wanyama. This year we bring in Ambrose. I mean, there's no reason to expect that this is going to stop anytime soon, and we can continue building and building. So that you get feedback from EPL fans talking about their TV revenue and how Celtic can't compete. Well, you know what? I don't remember when the last time West Brom was in the Champions League. So don't come to me and talk about not competitive leagues or opportunities for players. We're not joined by Gary Boy. Gary, hail, you're live on Beyond the Wave Celtic Football Show. Are your speakers turned way up?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Fine. Yeah.
You're coming through crystal clear. I think we're okay now. It just is. If you could turn the volume down just a little bit, it's perfect now.
All right, good. Yeah, I had the big speakers on. I just unplugged it because I knew it might cause a bit of feedback.
No bother, mate. No, it's coming through loud and clear now.
Good.
Hell, thanks so much for calling in. What's your thoughts?
I just want to say one thing about today's game. Now, I didn't see much of it there. I did see the goals, but one thing about today is this is. I may be wrong. Isn't this our first home league defeat in over a year? Because the last one I can remember was the St Johnstone defeat around about August last season. Now
we got beat by St Johnstone again, I believe, at home this season in September, I believe.
Yeah. It's just that I'm just saying the last time we lost at home.
Oh, that was away. That was away. Yeah. You're right.
That was the way. I'm talking about at home.
Right.
It's well over a year, since we've last, done that, and I wouldn't, today's defeat there, that could be our last home league defeat this season. We may, carry on, winning our games even if we don't play well.
Exactly.
But I did say to someone who was getting all hysterics about today that. Saying that there's no excuses, maybe, I didn't see the game, but if we were losing our next, few home league games, like 2 or 3 of them, then I would start to panic about it, but this, but not today, not today, it's just another bad day at the office.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think that maybe the what you'll find when you have a chance to watch the game or look into it. I mean, what you'll find and what my take on it is, Neil Lennon was caught between two minds in terms of the tactical breakdown and how to set up to defeat Kilmarnock and trying to reward players who had a performance of a lifetime this past Tuesday. It's hard to tell Kelvin Wilson that he needs to sit down after he put Lionel Messi in his pocket. That's a given. But with that being said, there are choices that need to be made, and these players need to realize that there are loads of players in each position that have quality and that may match up on the day better than they do. It doesn't mean that on a different day their performance wouldn't be as merited. It's we can't be all things to every player and expect to be able to tactically have the flexibility that we're going to need to go from Europe back to the SPL into cup games and so on. There needs to be flexibility. This idea and what you'll find is Chris Common's got the captain's armband today, which I still have yet to find any sort of logic as to why that happened. Obviously, you can assign different merits and different weight to how important the armband is, but it certainly had a negative effect on his performance today. I like to see a bit more consistency and a bit more stability as it pertains to that, as it pertains to the hierarchy of who the captains, vice captains, etc. But nonetheless, a learning opportunity. Like you said, we don't lose at home very often. It was 1955 since the last time we lost to Kilmarnock at home. So this.
I was quite surprised at that one. And that was long before my dad was born. So it was like, it's these little things. They'll papers will make a big fuss about it. I said to folks that some of the folks today that to avoid like beating yourselves up or annoy yourselves, don't tune into Radio Scotland or Clyde FM. Just tune into shows like these and let off steam if you want to rant.
Well, exactly. I mean, what you're going to get with Clyde One. I mean. You call into our show or you listen to our show, we might give you like the hurricane forecast for the East Coast of the United States. You never know what the hell we're going to say.
That's it. It's also what else was I going to say about today? What you said about Combs getting captain's armband. I think the only explanation for that, Graham, is there isn't really an out-and-out leader in our squad, is there? Really?
Well, you can look to the precedent, where Scott Brown obviously is the captain, and then the precedent in the past has been Charlie Mulgrew gets the armband, and in Scott Brown's absence, we've even seen Joe Ledley take the armband. But to have it go to a player who's never had the armband before, and really, in my opinion, has not really exhibited captain-like characteristics. You haven't seen Chris Commons in a sort of captain type performance or display ever. It's a bit of a head scratcher.
Yeah, I mean, it was only a year ago that everybody was quick to, or most people were quick to say that Commons has passed it.
Yeah.
For specific reasons. He's put the beef on, da-di-da.
Derby County fans told us this was going to happen.
Yeah. It ties everybody, and then look what happens this season.
Nobody remembers that now. Yep.
It's consistent. He's very consistent. Maybe not today, but certainly so far this season. And also, I think Tony Watt should have played for the start, and I feel sorry for Miko at the moment. It's not happened for him yet.
He's getting a lot of stick.
It's a lazy player. Well, I don't know about that. I don't know who said that, but I do think he is an out striker. Strikers are supposed to score goals, and it's not happening yet. I'd give it another couple of games, I reckon, and if nothing happens, then Lenny should give Watt a regular run in the team.
Well, I think that Tony Watt needs to have a more regular role in some of these SPL ties and try and figure out how Miku best fits into this side. And I think that what we learned from today, given Neil Lennon coming out in the press and talking about, and he specifically said Miku, he's the best player on the team right now technically, but he's got to toughen up. And making that public statement when a player is coming in and it's obvious that he's having trouble betting in, maybe getting settled, maybe getting adjusted to the SPL sort of style of play and what you can and cannot get away with. And as it pertains to that, and then seeing my assumption is playing Miku up top by himself. Neil Lennon says, "Okay, go out and show me something. Now you go out and score goals. Here's your opportunity." It didn't happen. He gets substituted off to a lukewarm sort of reception. I think at this moment you're dealing with a player whose confidence is absolutely plummeting, and it might do him some good, to have an arm around the shoulder sort of treatment to try and figure out what it is, what he needs, and then learn how best he can be successful. I mean, there is a player in there. You can tell. You can also tell it's very apparent that he's frustrated at the moment, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's right. And also, I like to talk about the Barca game as well. What I was impressed most about Tuesday night was the times when Celtic had the ball. Their passing was quite impressive. At times even up against such a gifted side as Barcelona.
Yes.
I was quite impressed with that. Was what one of the highlights for me.
Some of the through balls were breathtaking.
No, definitely. And I just and at the local supporters club, we for the first time everybody seemed like no shame. We're proud of the team and their efforts. Although they did have you do have maybe in faults. Maybe things could have been moments where it could have been avoided.
Well, with James,
Forrest may have had positioned himself better to stop the winning goal.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, it's harsh. In a certain sense, it's harsh to point out that one. I mean, Forrest had a couple of seconds there where he lost his focus, but that wasn't the only example of that. There were, since he was substituted on, there were several examples where he didn't do the best job in tracking back and maybe let his mind wander for just a second, and you cannot do that. They will make you pay in the form of goals, and unfortunately it did come back to cost us. It's still bitter even now, but take nothing away from the performance that especially our back four put in, as well as Samaras, before he went off. I mean, he was putting in a man of the match performance. And then for Forster to get, the man of the match in a losing effort, and for him to get into, the Champions League top side, that speaks volumes. And I think it's getting to the point now where we can have an honest debate about, and it's an irrelevant debate, but an interesting one nonetheless, of where his standing amongst the great Celtic, I say this with a bit of jest, but the great Celtic goalkeepers are. I mean, comparing him to Boric, I mean, I don't see him ceding any sort of attribute or standing to Boric. And Boric was absolutely loved and almost deified. I think we have a keeper every bit the equal to Arthur Boric in his prime at Celtic, and he's young, and we have so much to look forward to. It's very exciting.
Yeah, Forster was outstanding. I mean, I can say he was world class. Close to being world class that night. And with the saves that he made. So yeah.
Yep.
And also, just a couple of things before I go. I hope I didn't insult you for saying that. It was quite amusing to hear Americans saying drum chapel.
Oh no! That was no. Please,
Who you said the word asses. What's that?
Yep. Go ahead, coach. Go ahead, coach. Give him hell.
I'm just kidding around.
No, listen.
Asses are
we get no. We get far worse than that, Gary. It's not a problem. I actually enjoy when people say, "Oh, I like the way you say Huns," or whatever. It's all in good fun. So
yeah,
no offense taken. No offense taken.
Yeah, I've said folks down at the club about this, and how the Tims we have all over the world, and whether it's have a foreign language or just have an accent, and they say these things, it's great fun, and it's good, in a good way.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, the lads down at the supporters club are going to have a bit of this, Celtic Media Network next week, which if the listeners are listening and the guys in the chat room, the lostboys.com are going to come and visit the club next Sunday.
What supporters club is it? Go ahead and give it a punt.
It's the Bristol Celtic Supporters Club.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Down southwest England.
Yeah, you got a guy named McGuigan down there as well?
Yeah, Chris McGuigan lives in Cheltenham, just up the road. And
I think I heard of him.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just... because I found myself chatting with him under the name Bristol CSC on Twitter, and he just asked me if the lads were up for being on the podcast and have a chat. It'd be a good laugh.
Yeah, fantastic.
I'll just get permission from the man at the helm, who was a bit reluctant about it at first. I mean, none of the guys in the club know nothing about the Celtic Online Media Network except myself. Naturally treat it with caution. They're saying, it's not as good as chatting to the fans in the pub. Well, I'm not saying that it's not. It's just as relevant as chatting to someone in the pub. I suppose it's different with people who with Celtic fans. Just like me and you. Where we live, it can be a bit of a lonely burden. And there's not many fans to talk to. In town and village, except speaking to the fans online.
It's fantastic stuff. Thank you so much for calling in, Gary. We're going to let you go, but hopefully, you can call in again in the future. We'd love hearing from you, and give Chris our best when you see him. He'll help out.
All right, lads. He'll help. Keep faith.
Cheers. Gary Boyd getting in touch. Now, joining us, the Apollo Creed of the Celtic online community. He's got more nicknames than Apollo Creed. The Sultan of Swat, the King of Sting, Mellow Birds, Cash and Carry, the Parrot. Hail, Parrot.
Freely G, how you doing, guys? Okay?
Yeah, no bother at all. No bother at all, pal. What do you make of this? I mean, you were at the Celtic Grave Society event today. Tell us about it.
to be honest, Graham, it's the first one I've ever been able to attend. You know, to be honest, I wasn't very socially aware of what they did. I'd sort of heard of them. I was very lucky. I met the Green and White writer today this morning, and we jumped a bus to the East End. Very, very humbling, Graham. Absolutely. There was maybe about, Paul will hopefully do a blog about it, or he'll call in, and he's a better speaker than I am, but very humbling, mate. Honestly, I mean, I'm not a member of a supporters club or anything. To be standing 5 yards for Billy McNeil, Bertie Auld, Stevie Chalmers, Bobby Lennox, Jim Craig, unbelievable, mate. Really, really frightening, to be honest with you. You know, I was that was me on a cloud all day. We did, Paul and Josh did the show yesterday, and we were talking about how important was a guy like Jimmy McGrory in Celtic's history.
Oh, no question. Jeez.
The man, Jim and that, and the priest who were speaking at the Mr. McGrory's graveside, basically telling you stuff how he used to walk from his house in the north of Glasgow, probably about 4.5 miles, to Celtic Park to train so he could save money.
Unbelievable. And think about how many goals he scored.
Jim and that, they mentioned them how FIFA mentioned how only Pele and a few other players had scored more goals. Obviously, his ratio of scoring more goals per game. But no, it was excellent, Graham. Honestly, mate. I mean, as I say, we got there, and I'd sort of been aware of. I'd seen some of the stuff on Twitter about how the guys operated. Just absolute class act, Graham. And for guys that are just normal fans doing it, mate, you know, just absolutely. It sort of put into context. Me and Paul went for a coffee after it. And then we went to that game today, and you're looking at the guys on the pitch. To be honest, I'm not going to slag Celtic off, mate. It was one of the days. I mean, I'll tell you about Paul writing about Paddy McCourt later on. And then we went for a few refreshments down the Gallagher. I tweeted you a few pictures. So I got some nice pictures from the society today, mate, and I'll put them on the website. But no, mate, I absolutely, honestly, really, really quite spine tingling some of the stuff that was said today, you know.
Yeah, that's really what it's about. I mean, Jimmy McGrory, 395 goals and 378 appearances, so over a goal a game. I mean, yeah, it's just unheard of. You know, not just in terms of the number of goals scored, but the longevity of his career, and to maintain that level of performance for such a long period of time, and then of course managing Celtic for 20 years. I mean, you know, it's hard to think of. That's a very short list of people who have been so meaningful to Celtic, you know, as Jim McGrory. So it's phenomenal that you were there to experience it today, and it's phenomenal that, you know, there's the infrastructure within Celtic that gets together to put on these events. I mean, that's that's one of the long list of things that makes us different.
I mean, to be honest, Paul obviously knows a few of the guys. I know Jason, the homeboys, knows a few of them. It's the first time I heard a text off Jim yesterday. I met him today, and they were laying the reefs down and stuff, and they basically had to drag these guys out the crowd to announce who they were. Totally, they wanted to remain anonymous, Graham. There was no look at me, look what I've done or anything. Just an absolute class act, mate. And I'm going to go on my high horse for a minute if you don't mind. It's
Jesus.
There's a lot of guys out there, and listen, I'm the worst Celtic supporter in the world. I say it in my blogs every week. But all these guys that were sitting in the Gallagher today at 11:30 drinking pints of Guinness that are watered down, and there's an event like that, it didn't cost any money. It's a 10-minute walk from Celtic Park. And I know guys like yourself and Rev and any other guys overseas in England, or even guys that probably live in another city and haven't got the capabilities to get there. But to be standing there today, the club's 125 years old. That today, mate, I'd have just quite happily left that graveside today and gave somebody my ticket for the day. I wasn't bothered mass about the game, mate.
Yeah, I can tell. I mean, it's a special thing and a special feeling that you take away from ceremonies like that, where you realize and you get in touch with what it's really all about. You know, it's not all about trophies or Champions League nights or titles that we've won or Hun scalping, although all of those things are nice, but that's not what makes Celtic the entity, the worldwide entity and brand that it is, and loved by so many people on such a wide scale. that's really what it's about. So we really appreciate you letting us know, about the event itself and documenting it. And we look forward to the pictures that you're putting up on our Facebook page. You can join our Facebook group at Beyond the Waves, and you put up great pictures from the ground every week, which is just a fantastic resource for a lot of us who don't make the games. Well, I've never been to a game, so it's a fantastic resource for myself and the Rev as well.
I suppose I've not mentioned the words cash and carry Mellow Bird for a few weeks.
You just did.
I know. I've got to crank it up now. I've got to let you know what's happening. You guys have probably analysed the game to death. We're sorting out. You'll have to light some candles for me. Pope Paul's organising a bus for Dundee United next week.
Oof.
It starts off at Castlemilk and then it's picking up in the Gorbals and then it's gone to Dundee. They might as well have a boat ready to take us to Botany Bay by the time they get up there for energy. It's not looking good, mate. But game-wise, all I'll say is, I'm not wanting to repeat what you guys have probably said. I was just very surprised Tony Watt didn't start today.
Yeah, I would agree.
With Paddy McCourt coming on with X amount of time, I'm not having a go at Paddy. For whatever reason, he doesn't get the game time. Pope Paul's thing at the moment is they should just give Paddy McCourt's wages to the Green Brigade to make new banners with, because he's just a mascot at the club. The Sheriff was mentioned. His name's coming back up, and we had a little mini huddle in Birds after the game shouting Team Sheriff, and there was 9 PSV Eindhoven fans in Birds who were totally baffled. But apart from that, mate, there's a couple of scoops I've got told today, which I won't cheapen your show. I'll save them for the homeboys. They're total cash and carry. I'm going to keep something up. But while I've got you on there, obviously you, Rev, and Coach, Coach, I know you guys are wanting a scarf from the Celtic Barca game. I actually seen a scarf today at the ground, and it's commemorating all the three different games with Spartak, Benfica, and Barcelona.
Oh, lovely.
So you can let me know. I mean, obviously, I know you guys want a programme, so it's up to yourselves if you want the official Celtic Barca scarf for the club shop, or if you are wanting the one with the three different teams on it. Just tweet me and let me know before, obviously, next week.
Cheers, pal. Really appreciate it, man. Really appreciate it.
No problem at all.
You supporting the show and everything that you've done for us. We really appreciate it. And
not at all. I mean, it's guys like yourself, honestly, mate. I mean, it's just. It's probably just I probably cheered Paul Larkin's ears for 3 years today. I think he was ready to throw me under a bus. But no, honestly, the stuff like that yourself and the boys for Celtic Grades and other lots of guys do, but Green Brigade and all that. This is totally entities that have got nothing to do with Glasgow Celtic officially. You do it off your own back, mate. And as I say, I see every week there in the shite you guys take about for so-called Celtic fans because you speak with a funny accent. I mean, half of these guys got worse accents than you, for God's sake, and they live in Scotland and they think they know about Celtic. The stuff you guys do with Baby Oscar and that, mate. So no, not at all. You know what I mean? If you know yourself, but more importantly, we've got to get you over for a game, mate.
Yeah, that's got to happen sooner than later. But we'll get that sorted. First off, I got to get through this hurricane, and that means preparing. So we're gonna wrap up the show here in a couple of minutes. But like I said, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. I'll get as soon as I hang up. I'll get those pictures on the. I'll get those pictures on the Facebook page, and then I'm going to. I was lucky. Jim's got me a ticket. I'm going to the church service, although it's non-religious, at St Mary's the night before the Barca game. So
right.
I'll try and get a few pictures. I might have to get the cash and carry couture out.
Fantastic. We'd love to see that. It's another special event. So you're always on there. You're always on the scene, getting the stories, getting the pictures, and we appreciate you.
Listen, so I'll sign off, guys, and let you get back to it. So I'll listen back as soon as you hang up, and I'll talk to you all soon. But as I say, text me or tweet me and let me know which scarves you want, all right? And I'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Thanks, Stephen. Hell.
Thanks.
Guys. Bye, lads.
Good man there. The Parrot.
Mm-hmm.
A.K.A. Stephen, A.K.A. Cash and Carry, A.K.A. Karen Gillian, A.K.A. Mellow Birds.
Oh, our man, Chris Kuyeva. Who knows if I got that right, but... Oh, Jesus. Hang on.
Somebody's getting a text message.
That's my wife.
That's the greatest ringtone ever.
Yeah. I asked him if he got the Celtic Grave Society thing at McGrory's grave today, and he said he did, so
fantastic.
Going to get it up on a podcast tomorrow, possibly.
Good stuff. Good stuff. We'll look forward to that. In the meantime, boys, preparations need to be made. I need to go off to the package store and get some whiskey. Like I said, if there's anybody in the Mid-Atlantic region that has a generator and they are, or a spare generator, and they can help me out, that would be really fantastic. Get in touch at BTW Celtic Show. Boys, thank you so much. I think that was a great show. I had some great callers. Every one of them absolutely brilliant. So thank you so much to everybody for calling in today. Listen, we're gonna pick our heads up. It's just a loss. It's not gonna be the last one. And we're gonna scalp St. Johnson on Tuesday, and it's gonna be phenomenal.
Never a lack of callers after a loss.
That's that's the exception, definitely. But all right, I got to wrap this up.
So we're like therapy,
boys. Thank you, and thank you so much to listeners. Taking us out as always.
Stay dry.
Yeah, that's going to be a non-possibility. Shane McGowan and the Pogues. Keep listening to Beyond the Wave Celtic Football Show. My name is Graham Wilson. Hail, hail. Keep the faith. And stay dry.
The island, it is silent now, but the ghosts still haunt the waves. And a torch lights up a famished man who fortune could not save. Did you work upon the railroads? Did you ride the streets of crime? Were your dollars from the White House? Were they from the 5 and dime? Did the old songs start to cheer you? And did they still make you cry? Did you count the months and years? Or did your teardrops quickly dry? I know that it was not to be on a copping ship. I came here and I never even got so far that they could change my name. Thousands are sailing across the western ocean to a land of opportunity that some of them will never see. Fortune prevailing across the western ocean, their bellies full, their spirits free. They'll break the chains of poverty and they'll dance. In Manhattan's desert twilight, in the dead of afternoon, we stepped hand in hand on Broadway, like the first man on the moon. And a blackbird broke the silence as you whistled, it's so sweet. And in Brendan Behan's footsteps, I danced up and down the street. And we said goodnight to Broadway, giving it our best regards. Took our hats to Mr. Cohen, dear old Times Square's favourite bird. Then we raised a glass to JFK and